Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. The Salt Lake City business was evacuated so firefighters could battle a 4-alarm fire in the vacant building next door. Salt Lake City firefighters have been at 2nd West and 1030 South since just after 10 this morning. They did a sweep of the building and don't believe there was anyone inside. Authorities do have 2nd West blocked off, at least for the next few hours, and that's causing delays on all TRAX lines. Southbound Green Line riders are being asked to transfer to the Blue Line at Gallivan Plaza. Governor Spencer Cox is speaking out in support of the extended family members and community after 5 people were killed and 1 critically injured in what police believe was a murder-suicide in West Valley City earlier this week.
These are the worst kind of tragedies, especially this time of year, and so our heart goes out to those extended family members, to the 17-year-old who I was informed this morning is in stable condition, but we still don't know how that piece is going to turn out.
And the governor added that anyone struggling should seek help because that's available. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Some federal workers could miss paychecks if the government goes into a partial shutdown. Lawmakers are on Capitol Hill scrambling to come up with a government funding measure after President-elect Trump pushed Republicans to reject the one worked out earlier this week. TSA agents and air traffic controllers are among federal employees who could be asked to work without pay. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average is up on the day now 150 points, while the NASDAQ is up by 54. And our KSL weather looks like sunny skies, but that inversion's back. That's next. KSL News Time 102.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the 9s, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
This Friday from 10 to 1, the movie show comes to Sound Sleep Medical. But first, take the time to learn about a better night's rest. Sound Sleep Medical delivers oral appliance therapy that treats sleep apnea without the use of CPAP machines. They're professionally fit, warranted, and covered by most major medical insurance. In the days of a poor night's sleep, Sound Sleep Medical will help. Call Sound Sleep Medical at 801-716-8672 for details. Sound Sleep Medical.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa this weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Paid for by government. Now is the time to fill your vault with Morgan's Silver Bars. Grab your piece of America's silver legacy with this special offer. These spectacular shining silver bars featuring a crisp image of the iconic Morgan silver dollar, a legendary coin that has captivated collectors for generations. Americans treasure owning silver bars and coins, putting them away for themselves and their loved ones. Call now to secure 1-ounce silver bars minted in 99.9% pure silver and made in the USA. You'll be glad you did. Hurry, don't miss out on this special deal. Save $10 per silver bar. The more you buy, the more you save. Limit of 25 bars per customer. Call to learn more. Plus, with qualifying orders, you'll receive a free Morgan silver dollar. That's a 59 $95 value and free shipping.
Call 1-800-222-3967 now.
To secure your 1-ounce Morgan Silver Dollar bars.
That's 1-800-222-3967.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the DinoPay app. Here's Mark Christiansen.
Dan, a couple of slow spots to talk about I-15 northbound if you're making your way into the downtown area or through the downtown area, about 1800 south to 1300 south. Going to be really slow in those 3 right lanes there. A lot of black smoke coming up from that fire on 2nd West, about 10th south also. That may be what everybody's still slowing down to look at. And if you're on State Street, you'll see the end of the brake lights or the start of the brake lights. About 6800 south, that leads right up to the Fashion Place Mall there at 64th south. Some heavy shopper traffic in the area. Select dates through December 24th. Stop by the Entertainment Plaza at Jordan Landing Shopping Center to get a photo with Santa. Visit jordanlanding.com for details. Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
High pressure is keeping temperatures on the warm side for December. Highs in the 50s for the rest of the week. And there's no chance of rain or snow until Monday. Right now, we're looking at 48 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside Sources. I'm your host this afternoon, Greg Skordas, and I'm alongside Adam Gardner, owner of ASG Consulting, a Utah lobbying firm. Adam, how are you?
Oh, it's so good to be with you. I haven't hosted with you in a long time.
I know. Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. This is the 3rd day in a row I've hosted here. And day 1, we talk about this looming shutdown of the government. There's continuing resolution. Is it going to get done? There's great optimism. Yeah, let's put something together. Yesterday, we're here. They've got a deal, 1,500 pages. Everybody's on board. Today we're here, and it has now failed, or at least it's in deep trouble. And the Speaker Johnson was very optimistic. We were going, and he thought it was going to happen. He didn't have much concern that it was going to happen. I think he had some Republicans that were upset, but he had to get some Democrats on board, and he did. There was a lot of pork in the thing,
sure,
in terms of getting some other things done. But yeah, today it seems to have fallen apart, in part because President-elect Trump jumped in and said, wait a minute, we've got some stiff opposition to this. Vice President J.D. Vance and billionaire Elon Musk jumped in as well and said, time out. Let's put the brakes on this, which I don't know, because Friday afternoon is a day away, and that's when the government shutdown is alleged to have perhaps happened.
Okay, so here's my issue with this, Greg. This bill has been worked on and been written for the last month. That's how long the negotiations have been going on.
Right.
We are here in the 11th hour. We're supposed to have a debate and a vote on this on Wednesday or Tuesday. So it was expected. The text never came out, so it was going to have to be on Thursday. And then at the 11th hour, I'm seeing on Twitter where Elon Musk is saying anyone who votes for this bill is not a real Republican, even though he hasn't been a Republican for more than a couple of months. Anyone that votes for this is not a real Republican and should be primaried, should be taken out of office completely.
Yeah, that's another thing. Right.
That is a terrible, bullying way to make policy. It doesn't work. And so what you did is you, instead of actually participating and helping in this, I've seen him and Vivek Ramaswamy up on the Hill all the time. They're taking pictures with every single member of Congress. And they didn't think to get involved in these negotiations at all. And keep in mind, they're actually not members of any administration. They have no role here. And so they blew up the deal. And even Mitt Romney tweeted something to the effect yesterday in the morning and said, people are waiting for Donald Trump's direction. Nobody knows what to do because they're trying to guess what you want. And he took a lot of criticism, especially from the right, like, what are you talking about? What a dumb tweet. But he was right. Nobody had any idea what Donald Trump changes his mind all the time, a little too often. So he's never wanted the debt ceiling raised. So, and most of these members on the Republican side refuse to vote for a debt ceiling increase because they're going to lose their elections. And then at the 11th hour, Donald Trump says, we gotta, let's not even have a debt ceiling at all. Let's just increase the credit card spending all the time so I don't have to deal with it in my administration. And so you have a lot of these folks that don't know what to do. It's been against everything they've done since they got into Congress, and now Trump has changed his mind, and everyone's just trying to guess. So instead, they blow the whole thing up. And so now the House isn't going to take a vote for a while. And I think I've been talking to some of my sources in D.C., and they're expecting a few days shutdown of the government.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh, because you usually think, and we've done this so many times. I mean, I've been on this show and KSL at night for the last 4 or 5 years, and we seem like we have this conversation about every 90 days.
Yeah.
What are we going to do about the debt ceiling? What are we going to do? When are we going to do about a looming government shutdown? Republicans are saying we've had enough. We're not going to just let you free spend anymore. We had a speaker that lost his job. Speaker Johnson comes in allegedly sort of catering to the far right, saying, okay, I think I have things under control. And then this bill comes out, and I was a little bit surprised at 1,500 pages with all kinds of spending parts of it that were brought in. And I was a little surprised that he had bought off on that, and that Republicans had apparently bought off on it.
Well, all continuing resolutions are going to be long, because
Yeah.
you're just condensing the budget for 3 months and authorizing a certain amount of spending and appropriating certain money. But this did have extra stuff. It had 100 million. Oh, that sounds too low. I'm saying 100 million. It could be 100 billion. Who knows? For disaster relief in the Carolinas. And the Senate
to fix the Baltimore Bridge. It had a couple.
To fix the
right,
Baltimore
right.
Bridge. It also didn't want to include federal money for the new stadium,
Right.
As they're going to redo RFK Stadium. So they didn't want any federal money for that. So they had to negotiate with the NFL and et cetera, and with the city of Washington. And so you had all this extra stuff that had to be in there, stuff that was happening right now. And again, I just want to reiterate that you had a month ago, Donald Trump could have said, give me a clean bill. I don't want disaster relief in it. I don't want anything in it. I want you to just take care of it until March, and then I'm going to get everything that I want in March. We're going to work from level 1. But they didn't do that. They waited. They didn't know what was in it. You got a staff of 1,000 people. Someone could tell you what's in it, I'm sure.
You would think there would be a few Mitt Romneys in the Senate and in the House that would say, "I'm a lame duck." You know what I mean? That are saying, "I don't know." You know, you would think that there'd be some Mitt Romney types in the House, is what I was trying to say, who might say, "What do I care if Trump's going to ding me at my next primary? I'm not running again. I'm a lame duck."
Which is the whole purpose of a lame duck, is so you can get stuff. If you can get stuff through the legislative process much more quickly. And I think that you do have a lot of folks that don't really care. But this is politics. This is about Speaker Johnson. So if Speaker Johnson could lose his speakership over this, looks like he's not playing ball.
Right.
Then he's got to figure out a path forward. And so, he's going to be reserved and not want to tick off Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has given him a lot of cover with the MAGA movement, who don't like him very much because he gave money to Ukraine. But this also had congressional pay raises in it and other things that are not very popular. Why should we be giving Congress a pay raise when they can't even pass a flipping budget? And so I think we're going to see a lot more of that over the next few days, which is this just a horrible way to govern.
This morning at his monthly press conference, Governor Cox said he was surprised at how the deal to fund the government blew up so quickly.
I just have to say this one has come as a little bit of a surprise. Everyone that we talked to in D.C., it was just a formality. We thought that there would be a deal, and it still is very possible that a deal will get done, where we remain hopeful and optimistic that something will be done. We won't be shutting down. But
so your guess is we may have a shutdown for a couple days.
That's what I think. I'm so grateful for the state that it can actually get their act together.
Yeah, and Cox has said, look, last time we had a shutdown, the state jumped in and kept the parks open, kept the national forests and whatever open, so that the state was standing up to the plate. So, yeah, I mean, Boy, and even if we do have a deal, it's only 90 days. Next up on Inside Sources, new polling shows that in Utah, this is a surprise too, Republicans tend to trust state election officials more than Democrats. It's not the trend we've seen around the country, but it is here in Utah. We'll talk about that next.
A new presidential cabinet is coming together, and Utah's legislative session is just weeks away. Stories are breaking in Utah and in the nation's capital. Keep up with Tim and Amanda each morning between 5 and 9. Then Dave and Dejanovic at 9 and Inside Sources at 1. And Jeff Kaplan on the drive home from 3 to 7. Frequent breaking updates in the car on KSL News Radio.
Welcome to Staples.
Help! My family's in for the holidays and I need gift ideas.
That's why we're here. Staples has amazing deals on everything you need. Photo gifts, laptops, and gaming systems. Even custom holiday cards and shipping solutions to send gifts to the family that can't make it.
Perfect! Have anything for Uncle Frank? I love him, but the guy is never quiet.
Noise-canceling headphones. For you.
You get it.
Unwrap huge holiday savings at Staples. And right now at Staples, save up to $350 on select computers. Ends 12/28, in-store only.
Here's another great reason to use the United States Postal Service this season. Your boxes are wrapped and the gifts are in. Our employees are ready. Let the holiday ride begin. Let's start with the price. It's easy to manage when you ship with the reliable USPS Ground Advantage. In just a few days, it's sure to arrive. We're working non-stop to keep the spirit alive. USPS Ground Advantage, the affordable and reliable shipping solution for the holidays. Visit USPS.com/advantage.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. The other night, Dee and I had the chance to see Beauty and the Beast, Disney's Beauty and the Beast, at Hale Center Theater. It is something you do not want to miss this holiday season. The voices delivering those beloved songs to perfection is simply wonderful. I asked Dee, what was your favorite part? And she's seen a lot of versions of Beauty and the Beast, literally around the world. She said, where do you possibly start on this? But the costumes were spectacular. She loved Belle's ensemble. With Hale Center Theater's magic, it is incredible. The staging and the special effects, the transformation from Beast to the Prince is simply masterful. Hale Center Theater, don't miss Beauty and the Beast. And give a gift of Hale Center Theater. Whether it's tickets to A Christmas Carol, gift cards make a great gift, season tickets to the 2025 season, it awaits you. Go to hct.org.
Hi, Susan. We haven't seen or heard from you.
Cold.
We would like to locate Joyce.
The mysteries that made podcast history.
Cherie Warren disappeared.
Are now together for free at kslpodcasts.com.
I'm Dave Cawley, the host of Cold. Join me for Season 1, The Susan Powell Case Files. Season 2, Justice for Joyce. And Season 3, The Search for Cherie. Listen anytime for free at kslpodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
Salt Lake City Fat Loss is having a huge holiday sale. Almost 20% off, making it our lowest prices of the year. You can start the program before, during, or after the holidays. We know the secret to losing up to 1 pound of fat every day with no prepackaged meals, no injections, or surgery. The secret is our program helps reset your metabolism so you can keep the weight off for good. To learn how our clients on average lowered their metabolic age by 17 years, go to slcfatloss.com now to schedule your free consultation and learn why your metabolism may be sabotaging your weight loss goals.
I'm Dave Noriega, and I love the holidays, but you can't help but pay the price for stuffing your face all holiday season long. That's why I want to tell you about Salt Lake City Fat Loss. I lost 57 pounds in 60 days. Schedule a free consultation at slcfatloss.com. slcfatloss.com.
Go to slcfatloss.com and save big now. Almost 20% off, only through December 31st. Results may vary.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
You've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, a 4-alarm fire did heavy damage to a vacant building in Salt Lake City this morning and snarled traffic downtown. Second, Governor Cox expressed his sorrow over the deaths of 5 members of one family in West Valley. And third, some federal workers could be asked to work without pay if Congress can't come up with a spending compromise before Friday night. 49 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Adam Gardner here with Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst. At 2:05, make sure you stick around. We are going to continue our conversation about the CR, the continuing resolution. There's a lot to talk about, and we want to find out some of the inside baseball about what's happening back in Washington, D.C., and so we're going to have a special guest joining us to talk about kind of what happens behind the scenes, Senate versus House, Republican versus Democrat, new administration versus old administration or current administration. So make sure to stick around for that conversation at 2:05. The interesting thing that you kind of teased in the last before the last break, Greg, is that here in Utah, Republicans trust elections and elections officials more than Democrats. And it's kind of a flip-flopping of 2020 data. And I don't know this for sure, but I'm guessing in 2020, you had Donald Trump really sowing the seeds of doubt for elections because he sets things up that if he loses, it's not really his fault. And so you had this massive distrust, a massive conspiracy about how elections are stolen, even in the state of Utah. And then the Republican won in 2024, so there, of course, is no voter fraud, no problems. And so Republicans have kind of done this flip-flop, and so have Democrats.
Right.
So now Democrats are coming
when your
down.
party wins, boy, the elections are working great. You know, it's all going great. But when you lose, there must be something wrong. The system must be rigged. But nationally and historically, Democrats, even in Utah, Adam, have been much more supportive of the election process and much less critical of electioneering and shenanigans going on. And I think, and Utah, we do a great job. I mean, we had the audit that came out last week that had a few problems and issues, none of which were significant at all. But it certainly raised some concerns about, hey, what can we do better in the future? We had a few things that happened this year with mail-in voting, mail-in ballots, and sort of the postmark problem and this and that. We had 1,400 ballots that were mailed to dead people. 700 of them were, only 2 were returned, which is a real problem. But 1,400 mailed, and half of those were, that had been passed away long enough that they should have been included in the system. And so anyway, so I was interested in this too. But between 2020 and 2024, confidence in state election officials fell by 20 percentage points among Utah Democrats. 20 percentage points.
They're at 70%. They were
90% down to 70%. Republicans are up to 90%. 9 out of 10 Republicans think it's running great. And you know what? I'm in the majority for both. I mean, I think they're great. I think Utah's doing a great job. And I have to hand it to the Lieutenant Governor's office and the local county clerks.
And the county clerks.
You are doing a great job in Utah. And I think vote by mail works. I don't have any problem with it.
It's interesting to see because some of the biggest fights that we have are like you have Utah County, the Utah County Clerk, where they had significantly historical lows in voter participation, even by mail-in ballot, because he hates mail-in voting and is trying to stop it and trying to stop people.
He was calling out some elected officials.
He was calling out
saying,
multiple elected
hey,
officials.
We got your ballot.
We know how you voted.
Right, come on.
Horrible stuff.
Don't do that,
and so, but everyone recognizes that as the anomaly. And that's not the usual system. And I think that's a really good thing. I think you have this little small amount of people who still, and I see it on Twitter, and thank goodness Twitter doesn't reflect real life. But you have a lot of folks that love the national election because Donald Trump won, but they don't like that Phil Lyman didn't win. So therefore, it's only corrupt here, but it hasn't been corrupt everywhere else. And I saw one argument that was just hilarious to me where it said that Phil Lyman got a historical number of write-in votes, and he's the only one on the top 5 in the country that got a historical amount of write-in votes that didn't win their election. So there's obviously fraud. And I'm like, well, I don't think you understand how majorities work.
Right. What did he end up with, 6%
that's
or
something? That's not a, I think it was almost 9. Like it was significant.
Yeah, right,
it was really high for a write-in. And so you got to give him credit for that. But it's just funny to hear some of these arguments. What we haven't heard in Utah is there's not like ballot box stuffing, or there's these security footage of a county clerk's office where they're ripping up ballots or hiding them or adding them. We're not seeing any of that in the state of Utah. And again, this poll is done by the Hinckley Institute and I believe the Deseret News, and it didn't mention, it only focused on Utah, didn't mention anything outside of that.
Right.
But that's really good for the state of Utah.
It is.
It's great that we have confidence in our elections. We're probably going to see maybe a fight this session about getting rid of mail-in voting. That's been making the news.
Which we've been doing since
2011.
Yeah, and it's worked. In fact, we're the national model. We are a national model on vote by mail, and it's so much easier. And what it also does, Adam, it brings more people to vote.
Yeah.
Because of some people
are voting.
People that don't want to get out. We have on the once every couple of years when you really have bad weather or long lines or something, like people are like, I don't have time for that.
And I can get behind some of the reforms that they're talking about. Like, even if you got rid of mandatory mail-in voting, I would for sure sign up for it to keep that going for myself, and my wife would want to do that as well. But outside of that, this argument of I want elections to go back to one day using paper ballots, count everything the same day. I'm sorry. If you have elections in one day, you're not counting all of the ballots in one day.
Right.
That has never happened. It will never happen. You
and
also
you're gonna
have
long lines at 7
Why do
PM.
I want to wait in line for 4 hours after work?
Right.
It's insane. I don't like that idea. And who knows what they'll decide to do. I don't think they'll want to do anything that drastic. From the Republican side, that's evenly split. But as a Democrat, are you seeing any of that in your party? Even though there's maybe a lower confidence, are you seeing anything in your party that says that we want to change?
None at all. None at all. I mean, I don't think that the convention process is going to change. I don't think anybody cares much about signature gathering. Of course, it didn't matter to Democrats this year. Nobody had to do that. I think there was a lot of concern with Republicans about the fact that, well, let's just talk about the gubernatorial race. Lyman comes out of the convention with flying colors. Cox gets the signature gathering that he needed to, and then he wins big in the general election.
Yeah.
And so people are like, well, what's up with that? Why are we having the convention in the first place? To me, I think, well,
isn't that reasonable?
I think signature gathering saved us in some respects.
I mean, John Curtis,
right,
only got like 25 or 30% in convention, and then he wins with 55% with 4 or 5 people in the race. Spencer Cox only gets 33%. And then ends up just blowing it out of the water. Mitt Romney, he lost 51 to 49% and then got 72% in the primary.
Right.
So I'm like,
I think almost all of our congressional, except maybe Burgess Owens, didn't do well at their conventions either.
And I don't think Burgess did. Burgess even have an opponent?
He probably didn't. Right.
You're right. So Blake Moore, same story, and he won with 62% in the first district in the primary. Celeste Malloy famously got 42%, didn't get signatures, survived the convention, and then won narrowly against her opponent, and she's probably here to stay. So you're right. These types of arguments that we keep hearing are not, I don't think they're resonating with the parties writ large.
Yeah, and I think some of the Republicans who were frustrated with the signature gathering felt like Democrats came out at the primary and voted for the least offensive Republican.
Look, I only put like 5%, 3% of Democrats that take the time to do that are really into the process. That is not a widespread issue. But also, who cares? Who are we to say who's allowed to change their party affiliation or not?
Yeah,
so that's not fraud, and that's not allowing Democrats.
It's not
into
even
their,
dishonest, right? No, it's just
I'm allowed to do what I want.
Right.
If that's the race I want to vote in, then I'm going to participate and change my registration.
And frankly, there aren't any attractive Democratic primary races. Usually, it's very unusual that we have something like that.
I think the county council at large, Salt Lake County, was like the biggest race for Democrats, and that was the one that people were paying attention. I think it's interesting. I want to finish here, Greg, where 93% of Republican voters in 2024 said the election was run somewhat or very well, and in 2020, 21% of Trump voters said the same thing.
Yeah.
So from 21% of Trump voters to 93% of Republicans, that's good to see. Right. Hopefully we have that trust in our elections here to stay. When Inside Sources returns a major investment from the federal government today to help housing, including here in Utah, we're going to go in depth after the break.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Utah Governor Spencer Cox used part of his monthly news conference to address the state's effort to support President-elect Donald Trump's plan to deport undocumented immigrants who commit crimes. Cox says we have to do two things to fix the country's immigration crisis.
We have to secure the border. That's first and foremost. And again, now something that there is bipartisan consensus on, and President Trump will do that, and we will help to do that any way we can. And now we start deporting those criminals. That's where this starts.
Cox reiterated the plan is to focus on undocumented immigrants who've committed crimes before anything else. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A judge in San Diego has granted a gun violence protective order against a man who may have been plotting an attack with the teenager who killed 2 people and wounded 6 others at her school in Madison, Wisconsin. Court documents say Alexander Pattendorf admitted to FBI agents that he was planning to arm himself with a gun and explosives so that he could target a government building. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average is up 180 points on the day right now, and the NASDAQ is up 84. And it looks like we've got mostly sunny skies going forward with highs in the mid-50s. That's coming up next. KSL News Time at 1:31.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax, they know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. Optima Tax Relief. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
If your family is obsessed with Wicked like my grandkids are, you're probably wondering how much streaming and memeing your internet can handle at your kid's next Wicked-themed sleepover. Well, Xfinity Internet is powerful enough to handle hundreds of devices so you can get a magical connection with fast speeds and amazifying power even when everyone is online at the sleepover. With Wi-Fi that's truly thrillifying, one might even say Xfinity engineers are secretly wizards themselves. Now through December 22nd, get Xfinity Gig Internet for $25 a month for 12 months when you add unlimited mobile and get Peacock Premium, a $7.99 a month value included at no extra cost, or lock in your internet price for 2 years for just $5 more a month with a 1-year contract. Early termination fee applies. Go to Xfinity.com to learn more and keep the magic going from your screen to the big screen and see Wicked only in theaters. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Actual speeds vary.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the DinoPay app. Here's Mark Christiansen.
Looks like a pretty quiet afternoon, Dan, on the freeways along the Wasatch Front. I-15 in really good shape. No problems. I-80, if you're making that trek between Salt Lake and Park City, looks good also with pretty much freeway speeds there. Davis County, Weaver County, Utah County, all looking really good this afternoon at freeway speeds. Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account, plus continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen. Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
High pressure keeping temperatures on the warm side for December with highs in the 50s for the rest of the week. There's no chance of rain or snow until Monday, and we do have an inversion that's trapping pollution in the valleys. Right now, we're at 48 degrees, partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
You're back with us on Inside Sources alongside Adam Gardner. I'm your host this afternoon, Greg Skordas, and we're talking about the news of the day. We talked about Spencer Cox in the first segment and his concerns about the looming government shutdown. He also talked a little bit about housing in the future and sort of where the American dream is. A lot of people have been asked, do you want to be part of the first generation in American history to leave the country worse off for your children and grandchildren? And Spencer Cox is saying, that's something he asks himself a lot. He said this, right now the answer appears to be yes across much of the United States. It's a time, Adam, when because housing has gotten and housing prices have gotten so far out of hand that our kids, especially my kids, I mean your kids are still way too young, but that I've got kids who are buying houses and doing things and trying to qualify for a loan. Housing prices are up so high, it's really been a problem.
We're really lucky in the state of Utah. I think the governor has seen this as obviously sees it as a huge problem. And he said in an event a couple days ago, I think he said it in a couple different events, he said, we want kids to live near us. We don't want them to live with us for the rest of their lives. And I think a lot of parents and families are feeling that as well. And look, there's some advantage. When I was building a house with my family, I had owned a home, was building a new one, and I didn't want to stay in my house. And so we sold it and moved in with my parents for about a year while my house was getting built. When I was a little kid, with my brothers and sisters, we lived with my grandparents for 2 years while our house was getting built.
Right, we all did that.
So
right.
that kind of happens.
Sometime.
But what we're talking about is long-term and an issue where people cannot afford new housing or affordable housing. We're really lucky that the governor and the legislature have taken this so seriously that they've actually dedicated someone full-time to solving this problem. And I used to think it was an unsolvable problem, and now I'm not so sure, and that's because of who the governor actually chose to handle this issue. Senior advisor to Governor Cox for housing strategy, it's Steve Waldrop. Steve, thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you, Adam and Greg, for having me on. I appreciate it.
Okay, so today the White House announced $225 million to preserve and revitalize housing in several states, including Utah. Is that something that will help the state of Utah? Does that play into some of your plans, or do you guys have something different in store for Utah?
Yeah, the $225 million award that they gave, a significant chunk went to Rock Companies, which is based in New Hampshire. They do the preservation of manufactured home communities, commonly known as trailer parks. And so what they do is they turn those corporate-owned communities, they create capital so that the residents can purchase those communities. So instead of getting redeveloped and taken out of trailer park manufactured home parks, they stay in that form. There's pluses and minuses to that, obviously. The pluses are that you maintain residents in their current location. You give them the opportunity to sort of direct their own destiny. Many of these manufactured homes can't move. I mean, they're mobile homes technically, but they're extremely immobile. If they're built before 1975, you can't move them by law. If they're built and more than a few years old, then typically it's cost prohibitive to move them. There's too much risk of damage. So this will allow this particular group that has done one deal in Utah and will look to do some more to preserve those manufactured home communities, which are currently a target for private capital. They're coming in and buying these communities, raising the lot prices, knowing that the residents typically can't move. Again, even though these are technically mobile homes, they're really not mobile at all. So that's the business model for this nonprofit that got this grant. That's a critical piece when we talk about preventing homelessness, because when you close these manufactured home parks, most of these people have nowhere to go. They can't sell their home that they've invested in. The mobile homes are not valuable if they're getting, if the land is getting redeveloped. They simply lose everything that they have, and they're now homeless. We typically see 60% plus of the individuals coming out of a closed mobile home park going straight into homelessness, which is tremendously expensive. So there's benefit to that there. It doesn't really address, what the governor's identified and what I'm advocating for, which is this drive to more home ownership, starter homes. It won't do a whole lot in that space. But again, it's a critical piece to preventing additional homelessness, and I think we're glad to see that will happen. It's something that has been an issue, and we needed to address.
Steve, I want to follow up with something you just said about Utah and Governor Cox. He announced several years ago a $150 million budget to create 35,000 new starter homes in Utah by 2028. Can you tell us how that is progressing and what that's looking like?
Yeah, we're making progress on that. We the $150 million that was proposed ended up not getting funded. I think one of the first meetings I went into was with legislative leadership, and I said, "How much money is there really?" And they looked at me and said, "There's no money." And so it very quickly, became a question of what resources do we have to allocate toward this program that aren't just a simple cash outlay from the government. That's where we created the HB 572 legislation last year, which repurposed $300 million out of the state treasurer's fund. For background, we have $30 billion roughly in our state treasurer's fund, which is the piggy bank, so to speak, for all of the government entities, school districts, cities, counties. Everybody invests their funds, their reserve funds through them. That fund has grown. So we took 1% of that and did a set aside as construction lending money for qualified projects that are designed to produce starter homes for communities that are willing to do deed restriction for ownership and do sub $400,000 starter homes. They can be condos, townhomes, or single family homes. So that was the tool we came up with last year to address it, that utilized our existing resources. We're going to continue to try to leverage existing resources as we go forward. I think everybody knows that this year is going to be another difficult budget year. Tax revenues are down. The economy is not doing what it did a few years ago. We don't have federal dollars coming in like we have the last few years. So it's going to be a little bit of a leaner year. Higher ed is being asked to do a 10% cut across the board. So we don't anticipate, a bunch of cash that can be thrown at this problem, which is not the worst thing, because the solution to our market rate housing program is not more subsidy. It really is creating a path for private equity and private enterprise, our home builders, to be able to build the things that we need in our communities.
So looking at that over our last minute and a half or so, what do you have in store policy-wise then? Let's take the appropriations out of it. Like policy-wise, what do you have on tap for this next legislative session? What are you working with lawmakers on?
We have several fronts that we're attacking this on. One is in our existing cities. We're calling it our Legacy Cities Initiative. We've got to make sure we're investing in our legacy cities. You think about Salt Lake, you think about some of the areas that have gone from home ownership areas to 80% rental neighborhoods. We need to wind that back and turn back that clock. That's one area of focus. Another area of focus is on condo development, enabling developers to build starter condos again. That's the lowest barrier to entry ownership product, and we haven't been building those in any significant mass for the last 15 or 20 years. We need to bring that back to the market. And there's some things we can do, again, without appropriating funds. We can do some things structurally that allow for those products to come back onto the market and to address those issues. One of the other significant things that we're looking at is our public lands. And not when we say public lands, most people think of BLM lands and SITLA and Forest Service. What we're focused on initially are our agency-owned lands within the state of Utah. What do the state agencies own? UDOT has a bunch of surplus land that we can convert to productive use. Right now, it's not paying any taxes. It's, empty parking lots or park and rides that aren't being utilized. We can convert that into housing opportunity and do it in a way that provides starter entry point home ownership. And so that's really the driver of what we're looking at for this next legislative session.
Thank you. That was Steve Waldrop, Senior Advisor to Governor Cox for Housing Strategy. Thank you for joining us. When we come back after the break, I would like to follow up on something he talked about right at the end there, and that's public lands. We're going to talk about a public lands lawsuit and an update to that lawsuit after the break.
Don't be worried, be ready.
KSL News Radio has partnered with Be Ready Utah to provide the plans your family needs for an emergency, the tools and supplies to keep on hand, and the knowledge on how to keep a cool head.
It's Be Ready Utah. Listen to our show, Dave and Duchanovic, for Be Ready tips and tools.
Or you can always find the latest preparation info at BeReadyUtah.gov.
Be Ready Utah with KSL News Radio.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Hi, this is Doug Wright, and over the years, you've heard me praise the Connecticut soft water systems. You've heard that so often, you might be tempted to chuck a shoe at your radio. Well, hang on, because I've got some great news. Get this, Connecticut will pay you $50. I'm not kidding on this. They'll pay you $50 to buy a competing water softener from another dealer. Ready for the rules, though? Well, they're pretty simple. Invite Connecticut of Utah to your home for a free estimate on a Connecticut water softener. If within 60 days of hearing them out, you buy any other system from any other water softener dealer, Connecticut of Utah will fork over $50. That's how sure they are that after hearing them out, you won't settle for anything less than a Connecticut water softener. Now, this offer does expire in 30 days, so don't delay. Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com. That's softwaterutah.com. Tell them Doug sent you.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
How does a soccer club born in an unlikely place,
Utah? You sure you want to do that in Utah?
built with players no one else wanted,
We knew no one believed in us.
reach the league's highest heights?
We finally did it. It was like just this feeling of getting to the top of the mountain.
How does that same team find a way to shatter expectations in the midst of a fight for its own survival?
Our club is burning to the ground as we speak.
I'm Amy Donaldson, and in a new podcast, Making of a Moment, the RSL story, we take a closer look at one of those iconic sports moments
Soccer is a crazy game, and we saw it firsthand tonight.
and unravel how knowing the truth of these moments can transform what they mean.
I just kind of got chills right now thinking about it.
Making of a Moment, the RSL story, is available now. Follow us at makingamomentpod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Governor Cox says immigration enforcement efforts need to focus on those who've committed crimes. Second, federal authorities got a gun restraining order against a man from California who they say was in contact with a student who killed 2 people at her school in Wisconsin. And third, Luigi Mangione waived extradition in Pennsylvania, was brought to New York to face charges of murdering the CEO of United Healthcare. 48 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We have a little bit of breaking news on it.
That's the sound when you have breaking news. Dude,
Appropriations
you brought it on.
Chair Tom Cole of Oklahoma says Republicans have reached a new deal to keep the government funded past this Friday. Politico says the news has caught some Democrats by surprise, and nothing is official yet, and Democrats will still need to jump on board for it to pass. But we're going to have more on this coming up in our next segment at 2:05.
And this was fluid, like I talked about earlier. Tuesday we have something, Wednesday it's different, Thursday it changes, and then Thursday an hour later it changes again.
And we're having a conversation about this as they're in the caucus room,
Right.
Conferencing and meeting about this. And so, but again, this was only a deal among Republicans and not, the Democrats have not been read into this. Donald Trump has, and of course the White House is kind of nowhere to be seen in these negotiations. So we're going to be following that. Stay tuned. More on this coming up at 2:05. But we're going to talk about another lawsuit, which is right up your alley, Greg. And I again love hosting with Greg because I get up to date on like the latest legal challenges in the state of Utah. So yesterday, the Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance sued Utah leaders. That's SUA, which is on Capitol Hill, a 4-letter word.
I was going to say, right? It probably is.
It's a 4-letter word up in the state house over their lawsuit against the federal government. So SUA is suing over the lawsuit from the federal government against the federal government over control and management of federal lands. Greg, what's happening on this front?
Okay, let's start with the original lawsuit. This was brought in August of this year by the state of Utah against the United States. And it's an interesting lawsuit, Adam, because what they're saying is this. Utah is 54 million acres. That's the size of our state. 37.4 million of those acres are federal lands. And most of those are already designated as national parks, national monuments, national forests. But there's 18.5 million acres that they're calling unappropriated lands. It's United States land, but it's not appropriated by the United States government for any specific purpose. And it's currently being controlled by the BLM, and they're making money off it for grazing, oils, drilling, mining, anything that they want. And the state of Utah is saying, hey, wait a minute, what about our sovereignty? It's our state, it's our land. We should be able to get it. And so they filed what's called a bill of complaint. I've never seen one of these, but it's essentially this. We're going to bypass the trial court. We're going to bypass the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals. We're filing a lawsuit in the Supreme Court of the United States to say you should change the appropriation of this land and make it the Utah state land. That lawsuit's been going since August, and I don't even know if the Supreme Court has taken what we call certiorari. In other words, we want to hear the case.
Sure.
I don't know that the Supreme Court's even taken the case. But SUA is not going to wait. And so, 4 months later, they filed the lawsuit that you're talking about. And this was filed yesterday. Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance against Spencer Cox and Sean Reyes, now in their capacity as governor and attorney general, saying this lawsuit is misguided. It's not a correct, and it's inconsistent with, of all things, the charter for our state. Because when Utah was given statehood, there was something in the agreement with the federal government that said public lands should stay in the public, and you if to get statehood, you're going to agree to that. And they agreed in the inception of the state that federal lands were going to remain federal lands.
But so that's what you're saying is different. Federal lands remaining federal, or federal land being public.
Right.
And
yes.
so what the state's argument here
point,
is,
yes.
We're not saying that these should be privatized and sold to the highest bidder. We're saying you guys really suck at managing them, and we think we're better at it than you. And so we are going to control our own leases on public lands. So if we have BLM, I mean, if you drive through Beaver County, if you drive through Daggett, I've traveled all over the state and met with local folks and those that control our public lands and those that are trying to actually just make a living grazing their cattle or their sheep on public lands or Forest Service lands, whatever. That's going to exist. What we're talking about here is in Beaver County, if you have ranchers and folks that are running their cattle on BLM land, what we're saying is that we don't want that to necessarily change. We want that public land to stay public, but those that have grazed their cattle are not allowed to fix streams. They're not allowed to make any improvements to the land at all. They have to wait for the BLM to actually be the ones to do it, and they don't have money to do it. And they're going to help other states before they help us. We are not their top priority because they have the whole West to deal with. And so, I'm obviously very biased on this as I talk.
You're also a lot more knowledgeable about it than I thought. You called me. You said, "Hey, you're the legal guy, but you're the behind the scenes guy." This is interesting. I love this.
I worked for Congressman Rob Bishop. He was the chairman of the Public Lands and Natural Resources Committee in Congress. And no politician I've ever worked for or with really in the state of Utah is differing from those positions. SUA has been notoriously making life harder for Utahns to manage their own land or even manage federal land. And so they don't want anything to happen on federal land. And I'll take Bears Ears as an example, Greg. Here's my argument, and maybe this is way off base, but I had no clue where Bears Ears was. I had never heard of it. It was not a part of my lexicon. And then the wilderness folks and the Grand Canyon Trust and all these other liberal environmentalist groups are going after saying to President Obama, "We want you to make Bears Ears a national monument and completely lock it up." Well, Bears Ears was already protected by 10 federal laws. It was already protected. So now we're going to super protect it and lock everyone out of it. But instead of keeping this a pristine wilderness, all you did is making it a monument is put it on a map. And so you have more traffic through the place, all backpackers. And whereas before it was this cool local thing for the tribes and for residents of San Juan County that nobody else knew about. Yeah. And by suing and locking this ground up, now all you've done is lock it up to our residents for actual use so that you can have folks from out of state come in and backpack through it. I don't think that's a very reasonable request either when we have folks in the state of Utah who want to use it for energy production and want to use it for grazing and food production.
Would you say the same thing about Grand Staircase Escalante?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that was, I think Clinton did that designation.
Clinton did it in the waning days of his presidency, and he did it in Arizona. He wouldn't even come to Utah to do it. And you remember, it actually killed the campaign of Bill Orton, who was running for re-election.
Right, yes.
Because he did it without telling Bill Orton, a Democrat from Utah County,
right.
And he lost his seat over that. And so,
Thanks, Bill.
And President Obama, when he announced Bears Ears, he posted a picture on his official X and Instagram and everything else, and it was arches, a picture of the arches. These guys from back east, they don't understand Utah. And I don't like the fact that SUA and these folks who are based in Colorado and Salt Lake don't understand what these farmers have to go through and ranchers in southern Utah as well.
Interesting.
I'm not passionate about it.
No. But you certainly know a lot more about it than I do. I'm looking at the legal part of this. And in 1894, there was called the Utah Enabling Act, which was the path for Utah to become a state, admitted into the Union. And in part of that act, it said that within it was called the Utah Territory at the time, shall, quote, forever disclaim all right and title to unappropriated public lands and lands held by the Indians or Indian tribes within the territory's boundaries. And then in the Utah Constitution in 1896, when we did create our state, and we have reiterated the Enabling Act and said the following ordinance shall be irrevocable. without the consent of the United States and the people of this state. That the people inhabiting this state do affirm and declare that they will forever disclaim all right and title to the unappropriated lands lying within the boundaries thereof. I mean, they're making a pretty clear argument in terms of the Constitution. All right, we disagree on this one. Let's talk about something after the break that we probably will agree on. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. We have breaking news out of Washington. Republicans have reportedly worked out a deal on federal spending that could keep the government running past the deadline Friday night. Politico says the agreement didn't involve input from Democrats. President-elect Trump had urged lawmakers to reject an earlier agreement that included billions for disaster relief and other priorities. The town of Alta is asking people who park there overnight to put a sign on their dash or windshield with contact information. Alta Town Marshal Mike Morey says they want to allow people to move their cars rather than getting them towed.
By the time you pay for the towing and our citation, you can be upwards of $800. And, that's an awful high penalty for a small parking mistake.
While this public service might seem like the opposite from what many cities do, Morey says they want to avoid having a tow truck come to the top of the canyon, especially in bad weather. He says some people might be worried about putting personal information on that, but it can be very basic, even just initials and a phone number. Your money at this moment. The Dow Jones average is now up but just 15 points on the day, while the NASDAQ has slipped into negative territory, down 19 points right now. And our KSL weather, we've got an inversion again, but we've got sunshine on top of that. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:01.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Get up to a 30% upfront bonus to use for your retirement income, or up to 12% per year to help grow your retirement income. Whether you're in retirement or will be retiring within 10 years, Trajan Wealth can offer some of the highest guarantees in the business. I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, and I know no one wants to work forever. We all need to retire someday, and I know you've worked hard for your money. So now is the time to guarantee it. Take advantage of up to a 30% upfront bonus for your retirement income, or up to 12% per year for retirement income. Don't woulda, shoulda, coulda. Get up to a 30% bonus just for opening an account, or up to 12% per year for retirement income. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Retire the right way, the Trajan way, with Trajan Wealth. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Annuity guarantees are based on the claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company. DBA in most states has Trajan Wealth Insurance Solutions.
If you're trying to decide which gutter protection to put on your home, don't just ask how they'll handle leaves. Ask how they'll handle ice. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and that's right, ice. See, plenty of gutter guards are good at keeping out leaves, but most are made with flimsy materials that can bend, buckle, and break under the weight of too much ice. Kind of a big problem in an icy state like Utah, right? At RGS Exteriors, our exclusive gutter protection systems are built Utah tough. They're made with premium strength materials that hold up to 1,200 pounds of ice per square foot. Simply put, they're not going to budge. Our gutter guards are also certified to handle hurricane-level winds and rain. Mother Nature can't damage them. Guaranteed. Utah Tough Products. That's the RGS way. For a free estimate, call 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's rgsexteriors.com or 801-280-3110.
Jazz games at Delta Center are unforgettable. From the atmosphere, the crowd noise, and of course, the electrifying on-court action. With ticket plans, you can go to as many as 11 games this season. Choose from packages like the All-Star Plan, Weekend Plan, or the Western Rivals Plan, and get what works for you. Come cheer on the Jazz and get your ticket package at utahjazz.com.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the DinoPay app. And here's Mark Christiansen.
Well, it looks like I-15 still in the working condition through Davis, Utah, and Salt Lake counties here. No problems on 215. 201 westbound looks really good. The Surface Street accident in Weber County, this is about 1050 West Riverdale Road, blocking the two right lanes if you're headed eastbound. That traffic is back to the 84 ramps if you're trying to get off the ramp there and head eastbound. Merry Christmas from our family to yours. Receive the gift of $5,000 off 2024 Silverado HDs, Murdoch Chevrolet in Logan or Woods Cross. MurdochChev.com. Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
High pressure keeping temperatures on the warm side for December with highs in the 50s the rest of the week and no chance of rain or snow until next Monday. 48 degrees, partly cloudy right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
I love this show because it's inside sources, but there's something breaking all the time. And Adam, working with you, it seems like something's always breaking. We talked earlier at the start of the show about a continuing resolution, whether or not the government was going to stay funded past tomorrow night. It's scheduled to end Friday, tomorrow evening, and there could be a government shutdown. It's sort of hanging over our head. We thought we had a deal, then we thought we may not have a deal. Now it appears that at least the Republicans are saying they have a plan in place.
I think that there's a great tweet from Politico's Jonathan Martin that's kind of summing up what's happening just barely, where he said, Donald Trump making the Freedom Caucus vote for a debt ceiling increase as a MAGA loyalty test is the Christmas gift we deserve. And I think this is going to be really fun to see what's happening on this breaking news. We have someone, a close friend of the show and a good friend of mine, Matt Waldrop. He's the managing partner at Dauntless Capital Partners and also a former chief of staff in the United States Senate, really plugged into Washington, D.C. and across the country. Matt, thanks so much for joining the show. And what have you been hearing about this breaking news?
Well, as you noted, everything is changing with every minute that passes. And what's been most fascinating to me is how little everyone knows. I have been for the last couple hours in touch with a number of members of the House of both sides, a couple members of the Senate, and no one has any idea what's going on. In fact, Adam, you and I were texting about, 40 minutes ago, and I messaged a member from the Midwest letting them know that an agreement had apparently been reached, and I was the one breaking the news. This is what's happening right now. No one really knows what's going on. The way that shutdown politics is interesting because the only way you win a shutdown fight is if your part is unified. You need every member of the party, from the more moderate to the more extreme folks, to be unified around that, and they need to be unified around an issue that the public is generally in favor of. For instance, we want more money for border agents. We won't support a spending bill until it's in there, et cetera. So, that's what's happening right now. But the problem is I don't know that everyone really knows what we're fighting about.
And we are hearing, Matt, though, that the Republicans are claiming at least that they're all on board. And Speaker Johnson is saying, I've got the Republicans on board. Obviously, they need some help from Democrats. But that's a significant step, and you've got to imagine that Trump had something to do with that, at least in terms of saying, I think I can live with this current plan.
Well, Trump did put out a statement a couple minutes ago, which I just read very quickly right before we jumped on here, and he seems to be on board. I did hear from a different member that there's a suspension vote scheduled for 6 p.m. So that's,
what does that mean?
Suspension vote means that the rules are suspended in the House, and it basically fast tracks the bill. So there can be no amendments, no arguments, for lack of a better term, on the floor. They just go right to the vote. And that doesn't happen without the blessing of the Speaker of the House. So you cannot suspend the rules without the Speaker blessing that, which means the Speaker must think he has the votes.
So he said in his statement, a very important piece, vital, of course he capitalizes that, to the America First agenda was added as well. The date of the very unnecessary debt ceiling will be pushed out 2 years to January 30th, 2027. Now we can make America great again very quickly, which is what the people gave us a mandate to accomplish. So what I think is interesting is he's pushing the debt ceiling vote out 2 years. But he also says the debt ceiling is unnecessary. So I got to ask you, is there any appetite in Washington, D.C. to get rid of the debt ceiling completely?
I mean, clearly there's appetite among the person who's going to be leading our country for the next couple of years. I mean, the facts are the facts. In Trump's last presidency, he spent more money than any president in the history of the country. Remains to be seen whether Biden even surpasses him. He may not. It's going to be very close. And if you look at some of the bipartisan reports on proposed financial plans that were released during the last campaign, you know, some of them had estimates of a $15 trillion deficit increase under the next Trump presidency. So, I mean, the appetite is there among the citizenry of the United States, but it doesn't look like that's the path we're going down.
Matt, we've got a lame duck Congress right now in large respect, but we've got an incoming president who seems to be very influential on these members of Congress. In fact, to the point where I think it was either Ramaswamy or Musk that said, hey, we may – some of these Republicans that are not on board with what we're about to do here may face a primary. I mean, is there a lot of push going on up there? Does it seem right now from the incoming president, even though he's not the president yet?
Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, Musk tweeted out yesterday, any member of the House or Senate who votes for this outrageous spending bill deserves to be voted out in 2 years, right? So you start to hear the shadow President Musk things. That's going to be a story you're going to have fun breaking down in about 6 months when I think that Trump has enough of somebody overshadowing him. But that's a conversation for another day. Here's what's lost in all this, I think. Yes, clearly Trump's playing a heavy role. I mean, it's very clear. Where on earth is the current president of the United States? Where is Joe Biden? I mean, this is crazy that he's not anywhere in any of these conversations. We need a leader right now, not only on this, on some foreign affairs things that are going on right now. So, I mean, yeah, Donald Trump is filling the void right now that the current sitting president should be filling.
Matt, he's not even saying get off my lawn. I still live here until January 20th, so I'm handling Congress. He's not even having I haven't heard like Biden is in the back room with Democrats working on a solution, but they're trying to play this higher game of not getting into the mud with Donald Trump. We're not seeing any of that. How unusual is this for a president to not be involved when their own party is in control of the White House and the Senate?
I mean, I don't know historically how unusual this is, but to me, it doesn't even pass the sniff test of what's normal, right? You know, everybody's losing right now. There's no one that's not losing. And actually the messaging that's come out from I'll call it the Musk, Vivek world right now, that's also been unwound because, look, they were saying don't pass this under any circumstance. Don Jr. yesterday said something that is very interesting. Don Jr. said ETP, education through pain. That's the philosophy, education through pain. And so you see people saying, you know, we want the shutdown from that world. We want the shutdown. We want the shutdown to happen. And so, you know, this may be an indication of some wild times ahead because if the philosophy is education through pain, we're going to see some of that pain.
And, Matt, you indicated this special vote tonight at 6 o'clock. Republicans must feel like they've got it. Do you think that they're being optimistic at this point?
Well, they must. I mean, the speaker is the only one that can make that happen. I mean, that's Speaker Johnson. He can stop that. So he must think he has the votes. And so we'll see. I mean, that's less than 2 hours away. And it'll be very fascinating because, you know, the margins are so thin in the House that it's just going to be fascinating to see how that plays out. I mean, he's sort of Johnson's in a terrible position. He's got a really tough job. It's never an easy job. But, he's having his Kevin McAllister moment right now of, this is my house, I have to protect it.
We only have about 15 seconds left. What's going to happen in the Senate?
With this bill?
Yes.
We're going to go all over again. I mean, this is the thing. The charade has the play has two parts, and we're only talking about the first part right now. I would say, as my final comment, one person to watch in the Senate is Senator Boozman, spelled Boozman. Watch him because he put out a statement this weekend as the head of the agricultural subcommittee there that probably did as much to sink this bill as anything because the Ag Committee was not behind it. So watch him, and then that may be an indication what happens in the Senate.
Matt Waldrop, thank you for joining us on such short notice this afternoon, and we'll be following up on this later on.
All right.
When we come back after the break, we're learning about efforts to keep former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo out of the incoming Trump administration, who we all thought was quite popular there. We'll dig into that after the break.
The KSL News Radio app will update you on breaking stories.
A house explosion this afternoon.
And you'll get exclusive audio streams from local events, breaking news, and sports.
Cougars feel like they can overcome anything.
All of your favorite KSL hosts are there too, so you can listen anytime. Plus traffic and weather. Download it today. The app for KSL News Radio.
Donate your car to Charity Hotline. This is Roger.
Hi, Roger, I'd like to donate my car.
Yeah, good. Leave the keys in it, park it on the street, and we'll send a thug. Tow.
Where's your office?
In New Jersey. Where do you want it to be?
Well, Roger,
yeah.
I want to make sure my donation helps Utah kidney patients.
It will.
Which ones?
Well, does it matter?
Yes, I want the money to stay in Utah.
And boy, have you got the wrong number.
If you want your car donation to help people here in Utah, turn your car into a kidney car for the National Kidney Foundation of Utah and Idaho. Hi, this is Lewis Perez. Kidney Cars is the Beehive State's #1 choice for charity car donation since 1990. When you donate your car to Kidney Cars, funding stays in Utah to help local Utah kidney patients and funds local medical research. Kidney Cars gets donors the highest tax deduction, along with free towing. Visit towcars.org and learn more. That's Tow Cars with a K like kidney. That's TOWKARS.org.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Free admission, free parking, free delivery. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Dave and Debbie.
It's impossible to digest and consume all of the news that's now coming at us through either social media or through web pages or through the radio. Pick what is most impactful in your life and focus on that. And that's what Dave and I do every single morning. We pick those issues that are most important to our listeners and we boil it down so it's digestible. It's simple to understand.
I think we're trying to find the essence of the story. You know, you can't be an expert on all things, but that doesn't mean you can't be curious and really find out more and educate yourself and learn the complexities of an issue. But I think all of us start at ground zero on everything. Ask questions, show that curiosity.
And then if you need more research, you can always go to KSLNewsRadio.com and learn more.
Listen for Dave and Dejanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a new spending deal meant to keep the government running past Friday night has been worked out among Republicans. Politico says it caught Democrats by surprise. Second, a 4-alarm fire did heavy damage to a downtown building, snarled traffic in Salt Lake. Third, the town of Alta wants to enforce its winter parking rules, but the town marshal says they don't want to hit drivers with a big towing bill. 50 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm Adam Gardner here with Greg Skordas, our KSL legal analyst. New reports say that Mike Pompeo, who served as Secretary of State during the first Trump administration, was the target of a coordinated effort to prevent him from joining the new administration. And Greg, I got to tell you, This really gets my goat here. I wasn't a fan of a lot of the people that were in the Trump administration, the last Trump administration, but I was a fan of some of them. And Mike Pompeo is one of them.
Because?
He was graduated top of his class at West Point, so is kind of a hero in that realm of the military. He was a representative from Kansas. He knows the aerospace and defense industry really well. They were in his district in Wichita.
He seemed to serve quite honorably as Secretary of State under a Trump administration. I mean, they didn't have any problems.
Didn't have any problems. It was with dignity, I felt. I mean, he was well-respected around the world, but knew the intelligence game and knew the importance of our foreign relations. I thought he was very good. He wasn't one of these he reminded me more of a Colin Powell who didn't believe that a Secretary of State should be the one flying all over the world meeting with folks, that he should be the head advisor of foreign relations to the president and be with him all the time. And I felt like Mike Pompeo was kind of like that, wanted to make sure Trump had the necessary information and kept him and kind of kept his crazy. They actually asked him one time in a press conference a number of years ago, do you think you're going to make it the whole, the rest of the Trump administration, or do you think he's going to fire you? And he said, you know what, I'll just pay attention to Twitter, and if he tweets out that I'm out of a job, I guess I'll just go back to Kansas. And I thought he was really good, and I know he was angling for a new job in the Trump administration. He was going to get the Secretary of Defense, or at least he was on that list. But former Fox News host and Donald Trump Jr. led a campaign. That's Tucker Carlson and Donald Trump Jr. led a campaign to prevent Pompeo from getting an administrative job. So shortly before the election, Tucker Carlson approached Donald Trump with an urgent plea. Mike Pompeo had to go.
What do you think is the problem that Tucker Carlson has with Mike Pompeo? I mean, there's got to be something behind that, because Pompeo did serve Trump admirably. He had no issues. He had no scandals. He had no problems while he was while he was Secretary of State for those years. And certainly he only left that position because Trump left. I mean, he wasn't fired by Trump. His term just ended. So you would think that Trump would bring back some people that served him well 4 years ago.
Tucker Carlson. This is gonna sound biased, but I'm actually, and I'm very biased on this subject. But I also believe Pompeo. This is. I like Pompeo, but I don't care if he's our Secretary of Defense. Like, whatever. There's a lot of good people that could do it, so I'm not like a loyalist to Pompeo. My problem is Tucker Carlson has been too close to dictators around the world, and I'm talking about Erdogan. In Hungary, in Turkey, he has gone multiple times to Russia, and met with Vladimir Putin. He's the only Western journalist that's allowed to go and interview Vladimir Putin. And the reason is because Vladimir Putin sees him as an ally in the fight against Ukraine.
Interesting.
And so Carlson is going to Donald Trump and saying that he is a warmonger. Mike Pompeo is a warmonger. You shouldn't pick him. He's for endless wars all around the world. None of that's true. But is he for helping Ukraine beat an evil dictator in Russia? Yeah, he is. And the Assad regime just fell, if you remember, in Syria.
Syria, right.
And so that is come to a horrific end with so many, 500,000 people being brutally murdered by their leader. And Tucker Carlson just recently on his podcast didn't call him an evil dictator who tortured and killed and gassed 500,000 of his own citizens. He said, why is the United States so against Assad? He's just an ophthalmologist from London. That's what he called him.
Have you seen what they've found since he left the country, and people are going into these prisons and going to these torture chambers, finding their family members and learning the atrocities? I mean, from people that really didn't do anything all that serious except oppose his regime, suddenly they're political prisoners and being tortured and beaten, and people are wondering where their loved ones have been for years and years, and finding out, for the most part, a lot of them are dead. Oh. So let me ask you this. And we're going off just a little bit here. Where do you think the war in Ukraine, as it relates to America, is months from now when Trump takes office? So you're talking about Pompeo probably would have been a friend to Ukraine. Tucker Carlson maybe thinking that's not the best approach for us right now. What does Trump do?
Well, he said that he was going to end the war in Ukraine with a marvelous deal, the best deal you've ever seen, right after he got elected. So he said within 24 hours of my election, that's going to happen. And he had been working with Vladimir Putin to make sure that was going to be the case. That's not so easy.
Right.
And I think one of the reasons that it hasn't been easy is because the Biden administration finally, after 4 years, allowed Ukraine to go into and invade Russia.
Right.
So they were able to take multiple regions of Russia into Ukrainian control. And the reason that that's important is because Donald Trump just can't come in and say, okay, wherever you are right now, those are your new country's boundaries, because which is what I think he wanted to do before, because it would have given half of Ukraine to Russia. Now he can't do that because they would lose parts of Russia to Ukraine. So that is not going to work for anybody, and I think he's figuring out that it's too difficult. Carlson aired a litany of grievances against Pompeo, and he told advisors to tell Trump that Pompeo's lawyer threatened him after he said he was on his show once, that a source informed him that the CIA was somehow involved in the death of President John F. Kennedy. And I mean, he's throwing everything he possibly can. Excuse me. No new war. You and I, he said, built the plan that made the world safer, that led to no new wars. And that's really what Pompeo helped to do. If you think Pompeo is a warmonger, anytime you hear Trump saying that we made the world safer and led no new wars, Pompeo was a huge part of that. So why wouldn't he be bad? This is a problem just because I think of the Russia, Ukraine, Syria, and what we're going to see is this is all important because the next domino to fall is China and Taiwan. And so whoever the Secretary of Defense is, I'm not saying they're going to be a warmonger or a hawk, but they need to be aware that China is going to invade Taiwan probably in the next 5 years. If they are going to do it, it's going to be in the next 5 years. Trump's own deputy national security advisor is out there saying this, and wrote a book about it. And so that's going to be the next problem. So whoever you have if you have Pete Hegseth as your is leading the DOD, you got to make sure he's not just going to end the woke stuff that we seem to care about,
right?
But that he actually focuses on the world at large and which domino is going to fall next.
We did hear from Pompeo a little bit following Trump's social media post declaring that this former Secretary of State wouldn't be returning for the second term. Pompeo wrote on X that he was proud to work with Trump and added, quote, You and I built the plan that made the world safer and led to no new wars. I mean, that's a legacy that he should be proud of, and you would think that Trump would want to run with that a little bit.
In our last 30 seconds, what do you think about Marco Rubio being the Secretary of State?
I think he'll pass. I think he'll get through confirmation pretty well. I think that I actually think Democrats are not going to have a big heartburn with him in light of a lot of the other people that they've got problems with. I think there are battles to fight with Pete Hegseth and others. Rubio, probably not one.
And I
think it's a safe pick.
I haven't heard Rubio's name come up with Democrats or Republicans as someone that they would adamantly oppose.
Right.
So
Yeah.
even on the Democratic side of the aisle, and that's got to be a good sign. They have bigger fish to fry with Pete Hegseth, with Robert Kennedy Jr., which is another interesting one because you have a lot of Democrats that like him. Anyway, it's going to be really fun to see what happens. Join us next on Inside Sources. We're going to keep getting into everything that's important. We're going to be discussing public faith and confidence in the judicial branch of government. And spoiler, it's a record low, so stay with us.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. In Congress, House Republicans say they're about to release an alternative spending measure that would keep federal agencies funded past tomorrow night's deadline. Here's ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
Emerging from closed-door meetings, the Republican chairman of the House Appropriations Committee told reporters that Republicans have reached their own agreement on a spending measure that would avoid a shutdown. What's in it isn't clear, but President-elect Trump is now insisting that Republicans raise the debt ceiling before he takes office. Earlier, the top House Democrat said any talk of doing that would be premature at best.
And firefighters are still on the scene of a 4-alarm fire in a vacant building at 1030 South 200 West in Salt Lake City. Workers at a business next door had to be evacuated. Traffic in the area has been tied up for hours. UTA says a bus bridge is still in effect while the Trax line on 2nd West is shut down, and this runs from 600 South to the Central Point station. It's opening night for the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square Christmas Concert Series. Tickets to see the choir perform with Ruthie Ann Miles and Dennis Haysbert at the Conference Center are all gone, but there is a standby line outside the Tabernacle starting at 6:30 if there are any seats available because someone didn't come. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average is up on the day, but just by 15 points right now. Well, that's at the close of trading now. 15 points down for the day, or 15 points up for the day, and the Nasdaq is down 19 points. The S&P 500 was down 5. Our KSL weather looks like we've got sunny skies and warm temperatures for December. That's next. KSL News Time 2:31.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Addiction is a family illness, and at Renaissance Ranch, long-term sobriety is a reality. We help family relationships so you don't have to recover alone.
We're the professional staff at Renaissance Ranch.
We don't see addicts as bad men trying to be good.
Rather sick men that need to get well.
This is our message to them, that it doesn't matter how lost, beaten down, or defeated you may feel.
Our greatest desire for you
is to see what we see.
That you are capable of healing.
Prepare to emerge to be the husband, the father, and the son that you were destined to be. So to our new brother,
we say, welcome home.
Addiction is a family illness, and at Renaissance Ranch, long-term sobriety is a reality. We help family relationships so you don't have to recover alone. New hope, new life at Renaissance Ranch.
The impact of a meal goes well beyond feeding our bodies, because when people don't have to worry about where their next meal is coming from, they can truly thrive, like Marta.
And now we'll hear from our class valedictorian, who with our hard work never ceases to amaze us. Please welcome Marta Moreno.
And Alex.
Hey, Alex, how did the interview go?
I did it! I got the job! I can't believe it!
I knew it. Let's meet up later to celebrate.
And Diego.
Mom! I got first place at the science fair with my volcano project.
That's amazing, sweetie. Congratulations.
Because when people are fed, futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair. Save on every gallon with the Dino Pay app. Here's Mark Christiansen.
Still a pretty quiet afternoon on the highways. I-15 looks really pleasant through the Salt Lake Valley here. I don't see any delays into or out of Utah County if you're making that stretch from the point of the mountain to or from Orem, Provo. You're about 20-25 minutes on the gas pedal there. Into Davis County and Weaver County, traffic looks really good. Mark Christiansen in the KSL Traffic Center.
High pressure keeping temperatures on the warm side for December with highs in the 50s for the rest of the week, and there's no chance of rain or snow until Monday. Right now, we're looking at 50 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. A new presidency, new state leaders, and a new legislative session. Utah's top political experts discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm your host this afternoon, Greg Skordas, alongside Adam Gardner. And I guess this next one, Adam, hits a little bit close to home because I don't recall in my career, and I've been a lawyer for 42 years, when we really cared about the polls of how people felt about the judiciary. Largely, it's out there. They're seen as apolitical, although that's not the case so much anymore. And we don't really think of judges as being, do we like them or do we dislike them? But public confidence in the judiciary right now is probably at an all-time low. And to me, and I guess, I see judges all the time, federal, state. I was arguing at the 10th Circuit not long ago. I feel like they do a great job. I feel like they do what they need to do. There's always some concern about, you're a judge for life and you don't get voted out, so you can, you can make decisions and not be responsible to the voters. But to me, I think of that as you're not beholden to anybody either. So I kind of like that. But for some reason, confidence in the judiciary is really bad right now.
What do you attribute that to?
Well, yesterday we talked about one thing in particular, and it's a number of things, but I think it all started with the Dobbs decision, to me, and the idea that this Roe v. Wade had been on the books for 50, 60 years, and all of a sudden it changed, and change it, whether you like it or not. And I'm not making a comment about that particular change. What I'm thinking is that it was a change because of the makeup of the court. So if you have a 6-3 majority, as we do now, that seem to be more conservative-leaning, appointed by Republican presidents, you're taking on issues that have been in our country's, in our books for years and years and years, and suddenly we're revisiting things because of the makeup of the court. And that's something that, to me, as a lawyer, makes you feel a little bit uncomfortable. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
Because when I argue cases in front of a court, I have to look at precedents. The Fourth Amendment's been on the books for 250 years, but we deal with Fourth Amendment, Fifth, Sixth Amendments in my business all the time, every day. And what you have to rely on is, because I can't say, Judge, here's what the Fourth Amendment says, and here's what the founding fathers meant. I say, here's what you guys have done. Here's what the judges have said. Here's what the Supreme Court has said of Utah, of the United States. And so, to me, that precedence means something. It's sort of holy a little bit. And times change. I completely appreciate that. But I think people are thinking that times haven't changed. It's just the makeup of the court that's changed. And because of that, they're doing things that they can get away with now. Get away with is a terrible phrase. But that they can do that they wouldn't have been able to do before.
You're talking about like the times changing, like a Brown versus Board of Education.
Right.
Like that changed a lot. That changed Plessy versus Ferguson all these historic landmark cases that were on the books for 60, 70 years. And the court decides to change it, right? But times had changed. Like the country was coming along.
Sure, right.
Parts of the country were coming along to that ideal. So attitudes in society had changed a little bit. I totally respect where you're coming from on that, and I think you may be right. I think one of the things I would add to some of the sentiment of what's happening is when we watch these judges be confirmed by the Senate. It used to be you just whoever you nominated, if they were legally, and professionally qualified,
graduated from a good law
graduated
school,
from a great
really
law
well,
school,
right.
you were on the DC circuit or the Ninth Circuit, we took from our favorite circuits, and if you were good, we just gave you your person. It didn't matter if it was a Democrat or Republican. I think Robert Bork, when he was nominated, it changed a lot of that. Democrats came for blood.
Right.
And so whenever
Clarence Thomas had his share of baggage
Clarence
in
Thomas,
his confirmation.
Kavanaugh.
Right.
So you saw these things that were spectacles, and I'm remembering Biden as the chairman of the Judiciary with Clarence Thomas, and he kept through the whole thing, he would say these terms that I don't remember. And then he would say, most of the people in this room, Clarence, don't know what we're talking about here, but you know it and I know it. And it was this big spectacle.
Yeah, right.
And afterward, they asked Clarence Thomas, so what was he talking about? And Clarence goes, I have no idea.
I have no idea what he was talking about.
I have no idea.
Right.
And you have to
neither
just
did
kind of
Joe
sit
Biden,
there.
by the way. Right.
Joe Biden.
But it sounded great.
And then you had Cory Booker of New Jersey, a senator from New Jersey, in these hearings, give these impassioned anti-Kavanaugh speech and this I am Spartacus. I mean, he was yelling that in the thing.
Right.
And I was like, maybe the fact that we're turning this whole thing into a circus or a spectacle is a problem, because we go back to our respective sides and we hurl rocks at everybody else. And so, maybe we're picking more conservative judges, and we haven't had a conservative makeup on the court for a long time. And it was Kennedy's court forever. And so now we've kind of changed, but we've watched our people that we have elected and sent to fight. And what they're doing maybe isn't so much fighting for what they really believe in, except for maybe fighting against the institution's credibility.
And we had something come up yesterday that surprised me, and that is this. A number of federal judges had submitted their resignation, their retirement. They're ready to move on. And then after the election, those that were appointed by a Democratic president said, wait a minute, I don't think I want I don't want to retire yet. A number of federal judges are holding back their retirement, pulling it back off the table, saying, you know what, I don't think I want to be replaced by a Republican nominee. Seriously.
Interesting.
I mean, that's not what they said, but a number of
but that would be why.
Of course, a number of Democratic appointees to the bench are saying, time out. I think I'm going to stick around for another 4 years.
Well, you have...
which is really interesting. Yeah. I mean, that was something that surprised me.
It kind of brings the discussion back to a Ruth Bader Ginsburg type, where Democrats were saying, hey, it's the end of Obama's term. You're old.
Right.
Please retire.
Retire so we can replace you.
And she didn't. Said nope. I'm gonna stick through. She was 80.
Yeah.
And had cancer.
Right.
And so it was a matter of time. And then right when Trump gets in, he gets a trifecta, 3 people.
Right. Which made all the difference in the world with the court.
It changed the country fundamentally. We can sit here and argue what Trump did or didn't do that made the country better or worse. But one thing he did change was the makeup of the Supreme Court, and that changed the country.
And the Supreme Court made it up to him in a way that I think also questioned why the public, or at least brought to the fore why the public is concerned about them. And that is gave the President of the United States a much broader level of immunity than we'd ever considered before. And it's because we never had to deal with it.
Sure.
But we were dealing with it for Donald Trump. And so the Supreme Court looked at this and said, you know what? Presidents, and I understand governmental immunity. I mean, I represent police officers all the time, and they have to act. They have to make decisions that they don't want to be held under the same radar as you and I. When we're making decisions about should we use force against another person or something like that. But what they did, the Supreme Court, to Donald Trump was effectively gutted some of the pending federal cases against him, saying if it was in the course of your office, it was something you were doing, scope and course of your presidency, we're going to give you a broad level of immunity for that. And it really gutted some of the cases. And I think some people felt that was the Supreme Court's conservative majority sort of tipping their hat to the party that appointed him. Although it's a two-edged sword, because Biden's going to enjoy the same level of immunity if the Justice Department puts him in their radar in the next year or two, which they probably will.
Well, and you had Trump and Biden have both trashed the judiciary like crazy. So Biden said, this is, I'm coming in, I'm for the rule of law. I'm not like that other guy, Donald Trump, who goes after all of the people that are trying to put him in jail or sue him or charge him with anything. I'm not like those other guys. I'm for the rule of law. And then when his son is, meeting, hello, rule of law, I'm Hunter. And so you have now Joe Biden who writes this pardon for his son, and it said this is a witch hunt. And he was using the same rhetoric that we heard from Donald Trump, and so both of them haven't helped. I just want to finish with saying the Gallup poll that was done did not mention party affiliations, but those disapproving of President Joe Biden lost confidence in the judicial system from 46% to 29%. Which is showing that both parties are sowing doubt in our legal and judicial system. That's a problem.
Yeah, it really is. And it's sad. It's a sad day because, again, hits near and dear to me. My wife even works for the federal judiciary. So in our final segment on tonight's Inside Sources, we're going to tie together two fun topics, politics and Christmas. And I think you and I are going to disagree on this one. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
If you've been listening to me for a while, then you know how excited I've been to have let go of 70 pounds of fat weight in just 5 months, thanks to help from my friends at SOTA Weight Loss. It was simple, straightforward, no injections, no drugs, and no crazy exercises. SOTA clients like me lose our weight naturally, and we keep it off because they equip us with the tools we need to live a healthy, happy life. And get this is an amazing deal right now this month. Get 2 transformations for the price of 1 with SOTA's Buy One, Get One during the month of December. Lose weight together. It's the best way to do it. Make it a team effort. Start your 2025 off right with a partner. Double the results, half the cost. They've never made this offer before, and you only have a limited time to take advantage of it. It's so much easier when you're not alone. So go to SOTAweightloss.com to get started now. That's SOTAweightloss.com, because SOTA Weight Loss is, say it with me, state of the art.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Home ownership. At Progressive, we know it's part of the American dream. It's sea to shining sea, and water damage as far as the eye can see.
It's America.
It's freshly mowed grass and a fence that was freshly vandalized by a pack of unruly teens.
It's America.
It's also around-the-clock protection when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, which can help keep the American dream of home ownership alive and kicking. Get a quote at Progressive.com.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Not available in all states.
Transform your old, outdated kitchen with Half Price Granite. For a limited time, Half Price Granite is offering special pricing starting at $25 per square foot installed. That's lower than most big box stores. These prices are some of the lowest around. Granite, quartz, marble, and quartzite, all starting at $25 per square foot installed. Call 801-486-1700 or visit halfpricegranite.com. Half Price Granite, affordable luxury.
It's official. KSL Sports is your official radio home of the Utah Hockey Club. When the puck hits the ice this fall, you'll hear every goal, every check, and every tension-filled moment on the KSL Sports Zone. Plus, let your voice be heard on the Utah Hockey Club Fan Forum on KSLSports.com. Your exclusive home of the NHL and the Utah Hockey Club in Utah is KSL Sports and 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Hello, car donation hotline.
Hi, I'd like to donate a car to the Utah Kidney Foundation. Are you in Utah?
Awesome. Let's get some info and we'll send you a tow truck.
But I want my car donation to benefit my neighbor in Farmington who needs a transplant. Are you in Utah?
That's a no. I'm in SoCal, but you're still donating to charity.
What charity?
Does it matter?
Yes, I want my donation to stay in Utah.
Righteous dude. You need to call tow cars in Utah. Locals only, am I right?
Oh, yeah. I remember tow cars with a K like kidney. It's on a billboard somewhere. TOWKARS That's it, towcars.org.
If you'd like your vehicle donation to help Utah kidney patients in the Beehive State, please use the web address on their billboard, towcars.org, to donate your old car or truck. That's TOWK like kidney, ARS. Towcars.org.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
If you're talking, they will hear you.
Why are we getting killed like this?
Kyle's not here. Got caught drinking beer in the park a couple of nights ago.
Really?
Yeah. 0 tolerance. He's out for the season.
Harsh.
Hey, he knew not to drink. We've made that clear to all of our kids, right?
No, not really.
Bill, if we don't tell them what we expect and why they shouldn't drink, how are they going to know?
Talk. They hear you. For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Republicans came up with their own version of a spending bill to keep the federal government going past tomorrow's deadline. Second, a 4-alarm fire snarled traffic in downtown Salt Lake, but firefighters say the building was vacant. Third, Utah's governor says the focus on immigration enforcement should be on the criminal element. 50 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. I'm Adam Gardner here with Greg Skordas, KSL's legal analyst. And we're going to get a little political here this holiday season. If Santa Claus was an American citizen, which I think he is, North Pole, Alaska.
Sure, it's got to be close. Right.
So he birthright, citizenship, whatever. Would he have sided with Democrats or Republicans in November? A new YouGov survey asked just that. So we're going to talk about our thoughts. And, when I think about I can see how people would think he's a Democrat because he's a guy giving out free stuff made by the labor of others. And so that makes sense to me that, we're this exploited labor and just handing it out, but it's for the children, so we all have to be okay with it. But really, I think that he would definitely be a Republican. This is Christmas. There's been a war on Christmas for who knows how long by the liberal intelligentsia and the media. And finally, we have Santa, who is a Republican, here to save the day. So he's going to be on the winning team. He would have voted for Trump.
I don't know who's been naughty or nice in the last couple of years. Where do you put Matt Gaetz on the naughty or nice? I mean, if you're Santa Trump, are you going to appoint Pete Hegseth to anything? Are you going to put Matt Gaetz on anything? Well, Santa's going to give those two men a lump of coal because he's a Democrat and he wants to be fair. Now, what do you do to Joe Biden? Like, give him a cookie.
Okay, I
think
you're right for the wrong reasons. Okay. And I think he's going to give some of these guys a lump of coal because as a Republican, Santa's very into the merit system. He wants you to, if you've been good all year, you get rewarded. And if you don't, you're getting a lump of coal. As a Republican, and Santa as a Republican, I'm thankful that he actually makes decisions this way and keeps a running tally of who's cutting their weight and who's not.
But as a Democrat, think of what he does for labor. Think of what he's done. I mean, think of how much he produces in a year. And
those elves are not unionized?
No, I bet they are. I totally. I wouldn't doubt it for a second. I mean, they've never gone on strike, so that's a good sign. But even if they're not unionized, they're not because they're well taken care of.
That's great.
Benefits,
corporate America. Thank you.
And I don't know. He's been married for what, 1,000 years?
There's no way though.
Tell me a Republican that's been with the same woman for more than 10 years.
Outside of the last 2 Republican presidents, I think that may be a little difficult to answer. It's really funny here, though. This was, first of all, an actual survey that went out. Among Democrats, according to YouGov, 62% think he would support the Democratic Party. Among independents, 50% thinks he would support independents. And among Republicans, 55% think Santa would back the Republican Party. The survey also showed that Democrats and Republicans share a sense that the war on Christmas is petering out. So I mentioned that kind of in jest, but really that was a thing where, and I remember as a kid, a lot of times we were told not to say, not by my parents or my family or anything, but you had heard on TV, we don't say Merry Christmas because it could be offensive.
Right.
So we say Happy Holidays or something else. And but really, we haven't heard a lot of that lately. It's been kind of the war on Christmas is petering out. And I think most Republicans and Democrats agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, this year, 36% of Republicans say there's a war on Christmas. But in 2022, 59% did. So
That's high.
That's gone down a lot.
But
yeah.
that's significant in just 2 years.
Democrats fell also. They were 25% in 2022 that there was a war on Christmas, down to 13% today. So, yeah, the war on Christmas has died down. That's a Democratic position.
Yeah, the progressives have kind of tapered that off. It's not necessarily a winning strategy, and I think
actually
it's
you're right. That's not a winner for Democrats.
Most families are supportive of Santa-related traditions and are not worried about how kids will respond. When they find out the truth, not in on the game. 81% agree that teaching children to believe in Santa creates an opportunity for family bonding and shared memories. And 80% say that doing so creates a fun and magical holiday experience. And I know you've got grandkids.
Yeah.
And my kids are 2, 5, 9, and 11. And Christmas is
younger than my grandkids.
Younger than your grandkids.
About the same age, actually.
But it's an incredibly fun time going to see the lights, going to see Santa. The magic of Christmas is so much better when your kids believe in Santa Claus and look forward to that. And I really do feel like not just traditions, but bonding as a family over some of those shared activities, celebrating the reason, Jesus Christ is the reason for the season, and also the Santa-related secular stuff is super fun and goes together. It's the season of giving and a time to just watch out for other people.
And by the same token, greater percentage of Americans still believe when Donald Trump says the country's economy today under Biden is the worst it's ever been in history. When I was a president, it's the best it was ever in history. Neither of which are true. And I'm taking your joy and love away here.
I
So
just
I'm
got
thinking,
super sad.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But, do you believe in Santa Claus? Yeah. Do you believe that what Trump's going to do in his first month in office is what he said he's going to do?
No.
Right. So maybe Santa's more of a Republican than I gave him credit for.
And mostly because after a couple of thousand years, Santa Claus has got the tradition down. Yeah. And so we know what to expect. We know that he comes down a chimney. We know that he likes cookies and milk. We know that we're supposed to leave out something for the reindeer. And in exchange, we get presents. And with Donald Trump, it's not, even though we've known him for 4 years as president, we don't know what's going to come next.
That's right. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think Santa's independent. I think he's a candle in the wind, and he'll do what's best for the
he doesn't
world.
care about the government, right? He doesn't
not.
care about anything but taking care of the kids,
right?
And that's what I appreciate,
right? Yeah, and what did you do with your kids? Of course, you still have young kids. You have some kids that probably still believe.
Yeah.
So what do you do about that?
So
because I've heard people say, well, if you're really, do you really want to lie to your kids about that? Which I thought was a silly argument.
It is a shared experience around Christmas that I would never dream of taking away from my kids or their friends.
Right, exactly.
And I love it. I love the stories. My kids and I, we watch every weekend. We watch a Christmas movie or two on Saturday, Friday night and Saturday night. We are watching a Christmas movie. And they all have their favorites, and so each of our kids get to choose the Christmas movie. And Christmas Vacation is mine, but my wife and I just watch that with the two of us. But my favorite Christmas movie for kids is I love the Santa Claus with Tim Allen, where he falls off the roof and has to become Santa Claus. That's a great one. But also A Muppet Christmas Carol. You and I were talking about Christmas Carol and how much we enjoy that play. And I would say that one of my favorite adaptations of the Christmas Carol is A Muppet's Christmas Carol. And we absolutely love it with Michael Caine.
There's a Christmas Carol that I watch every year religiously that was probably created in the 40s. Alistair Sim played Scrooge.
Okay.
It's the best one ever.
I've never seen it. My wife loves it.
You gotta
I need to watch
that
it.
one. It knocks it out of the park. There's no Santa in it, and but it's I forget his name. Alistair is his first name, but anyway, it's brilliant. And I watched. I shouldn't plug the Health Center Theater, but I will for just a minute because I went to A Christmas Carol there the other night, and it was very closely based on that one. I mean, I know that the story is written and we follow it pretty closely, but it was an incredible production. I mean, it's something I think I'll do again. And the Nutcracker, they're just Christmas traditions.
I saw that play at Ford's Theater in Washington D.C. And it makes it just so much more magical. Maybe I need to take my kids and start going to see plays, but I still have a 2-year-old that likes to scream at random intervals.
You can't.
So maybe I'll skip that. Make sure that you're signed up for KSL's newsletter with the 3 things you need to know each day. Just text inbox to 57500 to get started. Thank you for listening to Inside Sources. Join Leah Murray and guest host Aaron Ryder tomorrow from 1 to 3 p.m. for more political discussion and analysis on Inside Sources.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station. Good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shaleo, sitting in today for Jeff Kaplan. It's partly cloudy in downtown Salt Lake City and 50 degrees. KSL's top story. We are learning more about the West Valley City family killed in an apparent murder-suicide this week. Families say they moved to Utah a decade ago as refugees with hopes of a better life. KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera is live with details. Eric?
Maria, we now know that the Ray family were refugees from Myanmar seeking a new start here in Utah. Michelle Schmidt was one of their host families to help transition to life in America, and she told KSL TV's Garna Mejia that they are just as shocked as everyone else because they just visited them at their home last Friday.
After being in the home on Friday, we did spend some time speaking with Day Ray. We were trying to assess lots of situations and how we could be of assistance, and his biggest stress was a job and employment. So he had let us know that he needed our help to figure out how he was going to get back to work.
Schmidt said the kids all seemed happy as they were together. Their sons played together that day, and they even heard them all laughing. She also said Day Ray's wife, Bume, was providing for their family financially. Live, Eric Cabrera, KSL News Radio.
The man accused of crashing into and killing a pregnant woman in Magna this week was allegedly fleeing after he shot his brother in the leg. Police say 20-year-old Sasa Hamilton is in jail after he turned himself in. Police say Rosanna Moreno was killed in that crash. Our top national story this hour. House Republicans say they are about to release an alternative spending measure that would keep federal agencies funded past tomorrow night. ABC's national correspondent Stephen Portnoy has the latest.
Emerging from closed-door meetings, the Republican chairman of the House Appropriations Committee told reporters that Republicans have reached their own agreement on a spending measure that would avoid a shutdown. What's in it isn't clear, but President-elect Trump is now insisting that Republicans raise the debt ceiling before he takes office. Earlier, the top House Democrats said any talk of doing that would be premature at best.
If lawmakers can't come to an agreement, millions could miss out on paychecks.
Congress needs to pass legislation to fund the government by Saturday, or else there will be a shutdown. Millions of federal workers could head into the holidays without paychecks, either furloughed or being asked to work without pay. That includes some members of the military and other critical government workers like TSA agents and air traffic controllers, right during the holiday travel season. The White House Office of Management and Budget is in touch with federal agencies about their plans for employees and operations in case of a shutdown. Karen Travers, ABC News, Washington.
Lawmakers are expected to vote on the package at 4 this afternoon. Texas Governor Greg Abbott unveiling a new border security strategy that involves billboards in Mexico and beyond.
We are launching a new campaign to deter illegal immigration into Texas. Yesterday, we began putting up billboards, dozens of billboards, in Central America and in Mexico. They inform potential illegal immigrants about the reality of what will happen to them if they try to enter Texas illegally.
Here in Utah, Governor Cox is reiterating his support for President-elect Trump's plan to deport undocumented immigrants. In his monthly news conference on PBS Utah, he said the work will start when the president-elect takes office. The governor said mass deportations, however, will not begin that day.
I don't see any scenario under which 20 million people can be deported. That's just not logistically possible right now, when we can't even deport somebody breaking the law down the street.
He says the plan is to focus on undocumented immigrants who commit crimes before eventually expanding to all undocumented immigrants. Salt Lake City fire crews are still battling a 4-alarm fire near 2nd West and 1030 South. Police say they have multiple drone operators helping, providing aerial views of the fire. Authorities have 2nd West blocked off and a bus bridge is still in place. Starting tomorrow night, you are not going to be able to drive east or west on 9800 South at Bangerter Highway. KSL News Radio's Adam Small is in South Jordan with details.
UDOT's shutting down the east-west traffic here for the next 10 months or so they can take out this stoplight, build 98 so it goes over Bangerter, making both roads non-stop. UDOT spokesperson John Gleason tells me for the time being, your best alternates are going to be 90th and 106th. He says they expect to have all this as well as their new interchanges on 134th South, 47th South, and 2700 West done by November of next year.
The closure at 98th starts tomorrow night at 10. Utah is among the top 5 fastest growing states. Census figures show the population has grown 1.8%. The U.S. population grew by 2.8 million, marking the largest spike since 2001. International migration is the main reason for the growth. 5 years after the murder hornets were first discovered in Washington state, wildlife officials